What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, that's right. It is Star Trek Day. Strange New Worlds. It's time to love. We're going to go ahead and review and recap Episode 4, Memento Mori. While on a routine supply mission to a colony planet, the USS Enterprise comes under an attack from an unknown malevolent force. Pike brings all his heart and experience to bear in facing the crisis, but the security officer warns him that the enemy cannot be dealt with by conventional Starfleet means. Alright, man, I'm not hiding the lead anymore. It's the Gorn, baby! If you don't like spoilers, get out of here. You clearly haven't seen the promos or anything having to do with the episode. But yeah, dude, we're facing the Gorn this week. Inadvertently and directly, whatever. But it's not a bad episode. I actually like it. I think there's a lot that happens in this episode. There's an awful lot of sweaty faces. Yeah, a lot of sweating. And we'll get into all that. Anyway. So the episode starts with a really awesome view, I feel, of the Enterprise. I always love whenever you see them from behind and whatnot. Anyways, and you get on giving her security officer's log, because they are currently on a rescue mission, or at the very least checking on some colonists. So right after that, when you get to that really cool scene from behind of the ship, what's cool is you get this really cool match cut, and film, it's called a match cut, where one scene ends and looks like another scene. A similar effect would be the one from you see in Star Trek 6, where you get to see what looks like the Starfleet symbol for the United Federation of Planets, and it turns into the top of Sulu's teacup. Anyways, so similarly, you pan over the top of the Enterprise, and what you get is this really neat transition to a button. And so the button says the USS Puget Sound, and the buttons are, this is for a thing called Remembrance Day. And so Remembrance Day is one of those holidays. It's sort of like Veterans Day or Memorial Day, I guess, in today's parlance. Then we cut to Uhura on her in another. So as a cadet, we all know Uhura is jumping from department to department. At the end of the day, she's looking for what may end up being her permanent residence or permanent place, so to speak, in Starfleet, or even if at this point. And so she's working with none other than Chief Engineer Hemmer. And Hemmer, of course, is his Hemmeriest, and you kind of love the attitude he's given her. She makes the connection that language is very, very much like what they do in engineering, which is you make two things that don't talk. You make things that normally don't want to play nice. And so it's a really good moment and opportunity, and you get to see kind of the beginnings of what I hope is a mutual respect, professional respect, if nothing else. When they try to communicate with the colony, the issue that they find is that there is no communications array. The communications array has been destroyed. And so that throws up all kinds of alarm bells, because you want to figure out, well, what the heck's going on? And so that's exactly what they're trying to do, is figure out what the heck's going on. That's when Pike suddenly makes the decision, hey, you know what? We got to go down. We got to take a look. That's what regulation says you do. When something unusual happens, guess what? You're the investigating ship. You're the investigating people. Now you have to go ahead and figure out what happened. So they're essentially having to figure out what exactly has gone down there. And it's all going to start with sending an away team. And the away team they send it's definitely, La'an's definitely on it and whatnot. And this is definitely a La'an-centric episode, mainly because of everything she's experienced and whatnot. So they get down to where the colony is, and the colony is pretty much laid to waste. Things are on fire. The entire place is in rough shape. They're in security detail and whatnot, so they have like some body armor on and the like. I think it's really just kind of the chest plates from their spacesuits, so their EVA suits. There's a short accident with a crewman and a dog, and so everyone's kind of laughing at him, and you can definitely tell the tension's very high right now, and it's very, very clear that that's exactly what's going on. Then out of nowhere, a ship enters the Enterprise's scanner range, and it's a ship that is in rough shape. It's refugees, about 100 or so of them from the colony planet, and they look rough. They're in rough shape, man. It's bad, and so they you get to see that they've been dealing with a lot, and they were attacked. They don't really know why. The attack was very brutal. People were taken, and so ultimately they are trying their best to figure out, well, what exactly is happening. And so, because they can't really place much as to who it was that attacked or didn't attack or what happened. And so it's one of those moments that kind of leaves everybody sort of going, well, what's going on? Where do we go from here? And so, yeah, it's very interesting. I really like what they're doing in this episode. Overall, the episode's got itself a lot of nuance. And by nuance, I mean, they've been telegraphing, we're 4 episodes in now. They've been telegraphing the Gorn. They've been telegraphing the La'an's trauma. They've been telegraphing everybody's trauma, to be honest. But at the end of the day, what you're facing is La'an's having to come to terms with the fact that she goes into survival mode almost immediately. As soon as she realizes what's going on, she goes into survival mode. And at the end of the day, one of the things she does or tries her best to do is to get as much as possible of the information to the captain as candidly as possible. A little too direct. And Pike's concern overall is that, hey man, you're not helping. You need to be calmer. And so she's like, all right, I'll make that shift in my personality and we'll figure the whole thing out. He's not judging her, and she's not getting in trouble. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, in position of authority, you can't be sitting. The people beneath you, your subordinates, they can't see you shaking. They can't see you sweating. Now, mind you, so after they encounter the Gorn. They attach a tether to the other ship. They're getting people over, and eventually you get that scene from the sneak peek video of the little girl running down the hall. And the little girl's not that great an actor, but that's okay. But then and La'an kind of looks at her and is like, "Tell me what happened. What's going on?" And so the girl's like, she starts to explain some things, and she explains a sound. It's this sound that she explains that really makes La'an go, oh, this is bad. And so she recommends they adjust the ship, and specifically the put the shields up, and they can't because of the tether that's going between the two ships. What they're dealing with at the moment is this it's a trap. Bottom line. It's funny. I was trying to find a better way to say that isn't but it's totally Akbar. Like, it's a trap. It's a trap. It's literally a trap, bro. And so La'an explains that they, at the end of the day, they left the people there, the colonists there, to toy with, and specifically to draw others in, put them in a weakened position. So they come swooping in the Gorn ship, and it hits strategically some places, and the Enterprise gets damaged and obviously loses the tether. They manage to get their shields up, but they're fighting for their life. And so what happens? Listen very carefully. As soon as he starts asking about the brown dwarf and the nebula and all the dust cloud and all that stuff, there is a few musical notes from the Wrath of Khan.
We'll be running dark.
That sounds
perfect. Anything following us, we'll have to do the same.
Give it a listen very carefully, and I'm like I had to pause it and play it again. I was like, okay, let's hear what you guys got going on. It wasn't bad. It was actually very cool. I was like, okay, I like it. Anyway, and so essentially they're going to play the cat and mouse game, because as they talk through the whole thing, yeah, that's that cloud is the best place for you to go, because it's going to make you guys no shields, no sensors, nothing. But at the end of the day, it's going to put the Gorn in the exact same position.
full impulse to a giant gas cloud of death. Why not?
So they have a quick staff meeting, and Pike is essentially like, listen, I need everybody to really, really think outside the box. So as they're going through some stuff, and you get of course tons of interpersonal La'an stuff, but at the end of the day, what ends up I really actually love this part. So they go in, and when they go in, you get this awesome cat and mouse game, and Immediately, Spock's like, Captain, you asked us to think creatively. And he says, I think I may have something. And he explains really well. He's like, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and go into this thing, and I believe fully we can use our navigation array. So the navigation array is a passive system aboard Starfleet Federation ships. By that I mean, so we're used to thinking of space, real quick, sci-fi space travel 101, specifically when you hear them give, when they give coordinates, they're like, heading 347.278 Mark 4. Okay, they're giving spatial X and Y, but then when they go the mark part, what they're essentially saying is a universal rotation. So essentially, you got to remember, there is no up and down in space. In space, it's everywhere. Everywhere is everywhere. It's not, I want to go left, I want to go right. It's, I want to go there. 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 So how do I distinguish? I can tell you X and Y. Okay, that's your side to side and your front and back. But then, how do I account for the other part, which is my getting up? It's changing, moving directions. It's bending down. It's so within my X and Y. Anyways, and so that's really interesting to me because in essence, what they're doing is he actually says it better. Pike says it way better than I can. He goes, Mr. Spock, do you realize you just turned a navigation array into a radar? Because what happens is the navigation array keeps track of dust, space particles, things the deflector dish has to push out of the way. Okay, it's a brilliant idea that this passive navigation array will now be, as the Gorn ships travel through this nebula, whatever, it's going to enable them to detect the eddies in the whatever, space debris, the dust, the whatever you want to call it. And I was like, it's kind of brilliant and super Star Trek. And I'm like, right on, man. But so then as they proceed to, they have one torpedo left. I don't know. Okay. So there's bad writing and then there's lazy writing. This is lazy writing because the episode's not written poorly. The episode's actually a very well written episode. But then you get moments like this and in general, and this is just lazy writing. Whoever's writing this episode, either they didn't catch it, the showrunner didn't catch it, whatever. So what am I talking about? They mentioned very quickly, apparently in the initial volley, the torpedo bay was hit. If all the torpedoes were damaged or destroyed, they would have exploded. Now, the argument can be made, well, they have to be armed, because that's a lot of how our nuclear submarines are the same exact way, which is that if a torpedo or something isn't loaded in and actually armed, it's just a large tin can. And unless you actually break into it and damage the housing or some sort, it's not really going to do anything. It won't even explode, really. So I kind of get that, but at the end of the day, so they have one torpedo left. Spock also points out they can't shoot it into this nebula area, this dust cloud, because the dust cloud will interfere with the navigation, same way it's interfering with their ability to navigate themselves. And what would end up happening is that the torpedo would just wander and go crazy. So Pike comes up with a brilliant idea. We're going to, using our new Eddy navigation thing, we're going to come around in front and over, and then they're going to just drop the torpedo manually. I'm like, okay, why not? Arm the thing and just push it out of the whatever. Push it out of an airlock. Shoot it at the airlock that's facing the ship. Anyways, it totally does the job. It destroys that ship. Now, then all of a sudden, as we're all excited, woo, destroyed the ship! 3 more signals. 2 smaller ones and a much bigger one show up. They were using the Dagon. They purposely baited the Enterprise into destroying the one of their ships, sacrificed a ship to place their location, because now they're coming after them. So then they're really under the gun at this point. So what do they decide to do? They decide that they're going to go ahead and head toward the black hole. So the entire thing that they were there to view, the whatnot, all that stuff that is there is a black hole that has it's a brown star that's falling apart. They're hiding in the debris field, a nebula, if you will, of space dust and stuff. That's where they're hiding. So their idea is we're going to go ahead and go, and we've all seen black holes. It's that little half curvy looking circle thing, and there's a disc around it. But the disc is really just stuff that's being pulled in, looping around the thing. Anyway, so that's where they go, and he and the whole time, I really love this about Pike, this episode. The whole time he's like, the Enterprise can handle it. She can handle it. I know she can. She'll take good care of us. And I'm just like, yeah, somebody trusting his ship. I love it. So nobody ever treated their ships the way they've always treated the Enterprises. They really haven't. I'm sorry. Maybe Excelsior under Sulu? Possibly. But at the end of the day, the idea that they're not, that they are, that they love this, that Pike trusts the Enterprise is going to get him through there. Not to mention the fact you got to trust Starfleet engineers. I mean, Corps of Engineers. Just saying. Okay. Chief engineer here. Anyway. And so, so one of the things so as they go in, they get to a point and he's like, yeah, Spock's like, yeah, we can't, we're losing some lower decks. So, because the ship's starting to buckle. And so he's like, all right, I'll stop, keep us right here. The other ships start moving in, and sure enough, one of the Gorn ships crumples under the pressure. It can't take the pressure. Done. So that's one down, two to go. That's one little guy and a mothership to go. As they continue forward, what happens is they notice flashing lights. The two ships are flashing lights at one another. So she wants to go investigate a little more. Back up. La'an recommends that they can't bring the ship out of the cloud to see what's going on, like stick their head up, because they're immediately going to be set upon by the Gorn. Plus, the Gorn will know where they are, relationally speaking, inside the cloud. So what ends up happening is that La'an makes the suggestion, what if we get in a shuttlecraft? So Spock and La'an get on the Galileo. While they come up, and they're able to kind of stay in the wake of some things and hide from sensor blind spots. And this is where they witness the blinking, the strobe light thing. And La'an explains her brother. So she's been seeing pictures. She's been seeing someone in her head this entire episode. The entire episode, and you find out later, it's her brother, who died during the entire thing. She's the lone survivor of her family. Remember, and so her brother discovered the lights are a form of communication, and he gave her a way to cipher it. She's able to also communicate, and what she does is she tells them humans have infiltrated our ship. And she knows immediately what's going to happen. They destroy them. That's right. They totally blow them up because she's like, yeah, no, they don't take weakness. They're survival of the fittest. Which, of course, they are. They're an animal monster species. Why wouldn't they be survival of the fittest? Anyway, now you're stuck with just the big ship. And they come up with an idea. They come up with a brilliant idea. For anybody who's been worried that Pike hasn't been doing nothing, this is what captains do. Right here. You assess all parts of the thing, you kind of like, and you come up with a crazy strategy. And even Ortega says at one point, if this works, yeah, this is going to be called the Pike maneuver. What do they decide to do? Pike asks Spock, he says, can we use the gravitational forces to slingshot around the black hole and free ourselves? And he goes, yeah, of course we can, but they're going to see. And he's like, all right. At the same time, Chief Engineer Hemmer and Uhura have been down below near the, specifically the cargo bay. That's where they got stuck when the attack happened. Hemmer broke his hand. Hemmer is helping talk Uhura through fixing a system that's trying to overheat and trying to have an issue. And so she's sitting there babying it and helping and whatnot and does stuff. And they have an exchange. It's fine. It's modest in terms of the whole storyline. It's kind of irrelevant at the moment. It's character growth. It's wonderful. I'm not saying don't watch it. But at the end of the day, so she's helping solve this problem. Pike decides we're going to go in. We're going to go ahead and I want you guys to put your EVA suits because the only way she can't fix the problem. She's super close to fixing it, but ultimately it's gone. It's too far gone. They're going to have to eject this particular thing in order to save the ship from exploding. Sure enough, They're going to use this as a massive explosive. So what happens is Pike gets in really close underneath that little disc thing of breaking up debris, mainly because the cloud's getting sucked into the black hole. They're going to have no cover soon, so he's got to come up with something. That's what the slingshot idea concept came from. So he goes in. The bigger Gorn ship is trying to see where they're at, and what happens? Sure enough, they release that thing from the cargo bay. We got Hemmer and Uhura in EVA suits. They're lashed down to the deck, and the thing opens up. And, of course, there's drama. Oh, no, she came loose, and he's holding your hand, this and that. I think the part they didn't get to cover was Hemmer clearly is holding on with his bad hand. So that's a cool, like, okay, he's, like, going above and beyond to save her life, and that's wonderful. So then, doing that, the thing explodes. It's a fairly spectacular explosion. And the Gorn, sure enough, decide, all right, well, I guess they must be destroyed. And they're like, yes, they must be. Nobody speaks, by the way. There's no, in case you haven't watched the episode. But that's what in my head canon, that's what's happening on the deck of the bridge of their ship. And they leave. Enterprise comes slingshotting around the thing, and sure enough, they're gone. The Gorn are gone, and you kind of deal with that. And it's Remembrance Day. And so she puts the pin on. The episode ends kind of abruptly, I will say that. Like, I was like, wait, what's going on now? But yeah, it's, overall, it wasn't too shabby. And, and there's this little side plot where Medical is having to deal with, he's like, are you familiar, I hear you are familiar with archaic forms of medicine or whatever. And he's talking about his stitches. Because number one took some damage early on in the attack, and she had to get some stitches done. Only because medical's down. There's no power to any of the other supplemental items. They have all their tools, but they don't have actual access to like the med bays or the med beds or the surgical beds. So all the things they normally would use, like that does things like transport or whatever, or lasers or any cuts or any of that stuff is not there anymore. Anyway. So yeah, man, there you go. Now you know. And if knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to being know it all yourself. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Comment below. I'd love to know exactly your thoughts and kind of how it fits all in. I like it. I like it. I like this episode. It again very much. It's our second Centric episode. I kind of would love to see a little more Spock and Pike, and maybe even Hemmer. Would love to actually kind of get to know him a little better. You know him. We're getting to know him in relation to how he reacts with other people. Anyway. All right. Hey, man, I want to thank you guys so much for being patient with me. I had to deal with some ups and downs. A few people know this or not. We deal with several both physical ailments in our family as well as being caregivers for an elderly person. And so sometimes those objectives clash with running a YouTube channel. That's okay. I'm not making excuses for family stuff. I love my family. But I would like to say thank you guys for also being a part of my family. So I appreciate those of you who've checked on us and kind of been like, hey, what's going on? We're waiting for this or that. I did record a Trek Talk Tuesday, and you're still going to get it. It'll just be later today, most likely, and then as well as my Discovery Season 2 review, going into Discovery Season 3 review and whatnot in the future. But yeah, man, I can't wait to talk more about this stuff. See you next week. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.